In a bank reconciliation question, besides for the bank reconciliation, you'll generally also have to prepare updated cash journals and the bank account in the general ledger. The journals are required to update the bank account, and the bank account is required to obtain the balance that is needed for the bank reconciliation. The bank reconciliation starts with the balance as per the bank statement and ends with the balance as per the bank account in the general ledger. These two balances can either be a debit or a credit. A favorable balance on the bank statement would be a credit, whereas a favorable balance in the bank account per the general ledger will be a debit, since these two balances should offset each other. Our first reconciling item is outstanding deposits. These amounts are money deposited at the bank but not reflected on the bank statement. This might be because the bank may take some time to process the deposit. You might thus experience a delay between the day you deposit the money at the bank and when the money is actually available in your bank account. You may have accounted this yourself, where you have to wait for money to show in your account even though it was paid in. Outstanding deposits should be credited. A credit represents a favorable position. Money credited belongs to the business. The second reconciling item or items are outstanding checks. These are payments not gone through the bank yet, or checks not yet presented to the bank for payment. These payments must still be made by the bank, and therefore it should be debits. The last reconciling items are errors made by the bank clerks. Sometimes it may happen that the bank clerk records the deposit or payment incorrectly in their records, and an error appears on the bank statement. These errors should be recorded on the bank reconciliation statement, while errors made by the accountant of the business should be corrected in the books of the business. This means that it should be adjusted for in the cash payments journal or the cash receipts journal. Now let's get started. First step is to open the records required to complete this exercise. Open or write out the templates for a bank reconciliation statement, a cash receipts journal, a cash payments journal, and the general ledger bank account. Read through the information provided and then record the balance as per the bank statement, the totals in the cash journals, and the balance in the general ledger account. The totals to the cash journals are given in note number 4. The total of the cash receipts journal is 81,200 Rand and the total of the cash payments journal is 46,000 Rand. The balance of the bank account in the general ledger is given in note number 3. It states that it is overdrawn. This is thus an unfavorable balance and should be credited. So we will enter it on the credit side as balance brought down. After recording the balances and totals, find the outstanding deposits and outstanding checks that should be recorded on the bank reconciliation statement. This information is provided in note number 2. The outstanding deposit is R2,840. This should be recorded on the credit side of the bank reconciliation statement. Outstanding checks are number 101, 106, 126 and 127. However, check number 101 is older than 6 months and has thus become stale. This means that even if the check is presented for payment to the bank will not pay it out. It is too old. It was written out on the 15th of September 2018. We are presenting the records of March 2019. From 15 September to 31 March 2019, it is 6.5 months. This check should be cancelled. This applies to all checks older than 6 months. Because the check must have previously been recorded in the cash payments journal as it is a check payment, to cancel the payment you have to record it to the cash receipts journal. To cancel payments or part thereof, record it to the cash receipts journal, and to cancel a receipt or part thereof, record it to the cash payments journal. Check number 101 should thus be recorded to the cash receipts journal in order to cancel it. And checks number 106, 126 and 127 should be debited on the bank reconciliation statement. At this point, I have already addressed note number 1, 2, 3 and 4. Please tick off the notes that you've covered as you go through an exercise. Note number 5 provides information about items that were not recognized in the cash journals. These items should thus be recorded in either the cash receipts journal or the cash payments journal. Bank charges and interest on overdrafts are expenses and should be recorded in the cash payments journal as these will be accounted for as payments. The dishonest check that was received from A. Averill should be recorded in the cash payments journal as well. A dishonored check is a check that the bank will return to the drawer or writer of the check because of insufficient funds. The check that was recorded would have been entered into the cash receipts journal, so to cancel it, it should be recorded in the cash payments journal now. The stop order is another entry to the cash payments journal. A stop order or debit order is an automated electronic transfer of money, generally on a monthly basis out of the bank account to pay expenses such as insurance. Notes 6 to 8 are all errors. As mentioned earlier, errors made by the bank should be recorded on the bank reconciliation statement, and errors made by the business should be recorded in the cash journals. The first error in note number 6 is a check that appears as R4,000 on the bank statement, but as R400 in the cash payments journal. The correct amount per the check stub is R4,000. The incorrect entry is thus in the cash payments journal and should be corrected in the cash payments journal. The adjustment is R3,600, which is R4,000 minus R400. R400 is already recorded as a payment. A further R3,600 is needed and should now be recorded. and this is in respect of rent. The second error in note number 7 is an error made by the bank. The bank erroneously debited the business's bank account by 1,180 rand. To correct it, it should be credited and should thus be recorded on the credit side of the bank reconciliation statement. The third error in note number 8 is another error made by the bank. A cheque appeared as 8,500 rand and the correct amount is 5,800 rand. An overpayment was therefore made and the business will have to be refunded. The difference is 2,700 rand. The 2,700 rand should be credited on the bank reconciliation statement as the bank will have to deposit this amount into the business's bank account. Had the bank paid less than what they should have, the entry would have been 3,100 rand. They then would have to make a further payment of 2,700 rand, and this would have been entered on the debit side of the bank reconciliation statement. Here it was an overpayment, the business should be refunded, and therefore the amount should be credited. That is the last adjustment, and the records can now be closed and totaled. First total the cash journals, because if you remember, totals of the cash journals updates the bank account in the general ledger, and the balance of the bank account is needed for the bank reconciliation statement. Total receipts in the cash receipts journal equals 85,200 rand, and this is recorded to the debit side of the bank account. It is debited as it represents an increase in the asset. Total payments equals 55,837 rand, and this goes onto the credit side of the bank account. Next, balance the bank account. The debit side is greater, so we'll have to balance to the total of the debit side equaling 85,200 rand. The balance, if calculated on the credit side to be carried forward, is calculated by taking the 85,200 rand and subtracting all the entries on the credit side therefrom. 85,200 minus 6,400 minus 55,837 equals 22,963. The balance brought down is the same as the balance carried forward, and this is recorded on the debit side. The balance brought down is the one recorded on the bank reconciliation statement. It's recorded on the debit side since the balance brought down is a debit balance. Had it been on the credit side of the bank account, which recorded on the credit column of the bank reconciliation statement. The bank reconciliation statement is the last to be closed. We close it off by totaling the debit and credit columns. The totals amount to 32,418 rand on both sides. These two totals should always be equal to show that the balance per the bank statement reconciles with the balance per the bank account in the general ledger, which is the purpose of the bank reconciliation statement.